Hey everybody, welcome back to RV Weekenders. So we have a project today that we have to undergo. We haven't been able to do any traveling this year because I'm going to show you. I went to go take the tires off one day and one of the lug nuts wouldn't come off and it sheared off, believe it or not. And I have spent the better part of the month of June, part of May, trying to find a replacement wheel stud. So as you can see, I've got the tire off right now. You can see one of them's missing. That one right there. I had to take it out, and I'm going to show you why once I get this off. And the route that I ended up having to go to is replacing the entire rotor because these studs are just not available. Why Dexter used them, I couldn't understand. So let me take you over to the workbench. I can show you what we got. So we're going to go to this particular rotor right here and put this on. These are better studs. They're grade 8 studs. They're still 1/2 inch. I did not try to go any larger because I wasn't sure if the studs would fit in the wheel. So, but because of the new style, we used to be able to put these caps on, and now we're going to have to go to a press cap. So we're going to head over to the rig and we're going to get that rotor off and change it out, which means we're going to have to grease some bearings. So we're going to show you how that's done by greasing these bearings, and that way you can see how to do it for each one of your wheels. So once you get this thing properly supported, and you can see I'm using the jacks to support the trailer. I leveled it up and then I put a jack underneath. So let's go ahead and get to taking this thing off. Please make sure that you're following all safety precautions. Make sure that the rig is level and that you are using the right jack for this. Should be at least a 3-ton jack. And if you'll notice, mine's a Pittsburgh. Yep, I bought it at Harbor Freight. I've had this jack now, gosh, for a better part of 8 years, and it has served me extremely well. So let's get started. All right, so we're all set to go. We're going to take this cap off first. These are really nice. I wish that I could have kept it, but I mean, I'll save it in case I need to use it for something else. We're going to start off by taking the caliper off. I should tell you that I got the parts that I needed from each trailer. They really helped me try to find that stud so I didn't have to change out the entire rotor, but they were pretty unsuccessful. It says they had it in stock, but they ended up not having it. So unfortunately, we had to go the whole rotor route. So I'm just going to slide this in here and sit it on top of the shackle. Then right here, see if I can get you a good look at this. There's a little clip, and this is on the Dexter axles, not the Lippert axles. And this clip just pops out. You just use a screwdriver. Just got to keep a little pressure on it, and it pops off. And then this nut should be loose. Yep. And the reason why, guys, this is, you don't tighten this. There is a torque spec for this. I couldn't find it, believe it or not. But my experience as an auto mechanic, I am an educated auto mechanic, tells me that I should tighten this up until it is nice and tight, and then back it off a little bit. And the reason why is because as the bearing metal gets warm, and it'll get hot, it will expand. And so you want to make sure there's enough room in there for the expansion to take effect. So that's that physics thing that I think somebody mentioned once on one of our videos. Matter of fact, the shackle video. And I wanted to show you something on the shackle video. So if you go back and look at the shackle video, I'm going to grab one of the bolts. I'll show you one of the bolts when we get back over to the workbench. Now, some people, once you get this outer bearing out, they'll put the nut back on and drag the rotor across and try to pop that back bearing out, or the seal out, using the nut. And that is a bad practice. You will damage that bearing, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to damage the bearing. Okay, that's it. Alright, so now we got the bearing out. Put it in the cap over here. And then we're going to pull this out. And I'm not worried about getting it all greasy because I'm going to change the whole thing out. So, alright. And we'll take this over to the workbench and see you over there in a minute. Okay, so I got the rotor here on the workbench, and it is upside down, and I'm going to show you a really slick way to get this seal out. Now, I never reuse seals. There's a brand new seal. And the reason why I never reuse seals, please, I know there's going to be probably a lot of comments on this saying, oh, you can reuse the seal. These seals break down over time, and this grease on here breaks down over time, and it will wear, and I don't want to take a chance on this lubricant oozing out of the axle. So we're going to change this every time. Guys, they're not that expensive. There's 4 of these. They're about $6 or $7 a piece. Right on e-trailer. You can get them on e-trailer. So let's take this one out. And since we didn't use the old drag the nut theory, we're going to use a pry bar. And we're going to take this pry bar, and we're going to put it right in here. Let's see if I can get this to a spot where you can see it. And then we're going to take a hammer, and as you can see, I'm sitting on the seal. And you can see it coming up, and it's out. And then the seal gets thrown away. I do not reuse seals. So now we're going to take the bearing out, and we're going to reuse these bearings. They're really not that old. We haven't done that much traveling. So we're going to reuse these. And now I want to show you what the stud looks like. Now I've got these studs on the rest of the trailer, so I want to save them. I want to save all of them. So I'm going to show you how you take one out. It's pretty easy. So we're going to use a punch and a hammer. And you want to make sure you stay away from the threads. And it's coming. A little bit at a time. Okay, so now I got one out. I want to show this to you. So this particular stud has a very large spline on it. And again, I don't know why Dexter did this. I said I couldn't get these. So just to make sure that the thread's still good on it, which it is, we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of these out because I want to save them in case I have another broken one on the trailer. So we're going to follow the same procedure and we're going to get them all out. I'm going to use a little bit bigger hammer. I don't know why I flipped that over. I'm going to use a little bit bigger hammer and we'll get all these out. Okay, so now that we got the seal in, the bearings in, just make sure that seal is all the way flush. You can hear it as you're tapping it around. You can tell that it's flush. And then you're going to take a little bit of lubricant and you're going to put it on the seal. So lubricating that seal is really important. And this is a high-speed lubricant. It's a Valvoline high-speed red lubricant. Alright, now I need to go run and grab the other bearing. We're going to pack it and then take all this over and get it installed on the fifth wheel. Okay, so we got the outside bearing ready to go. Okay, there we go. Hold out. Get this all nice and lubed up. And now it's ready to go. So we're going to put that back there. Cap this off. Keep that grease nice. And now we're going to head back over to the fifth wheel and get the rotor installed. See you over there. Okay, so we got the grease now all cleaned off the spindle, so the spindle is got all of the dust and everything off of it. So now we're going to add some lubricant. Before we do that though, you'll notice this Zerk fitting right here. We want to pump all the old grease out of there. So we're going to use the same grease. And let me see if I can shift this over so you can watch it come out. And this will go into the bearing. Notice we're getting all the old grease out. Okay, now we're going to put some grease on the spindle. Make sure you grease this back part. This is where the seal rides. Should be nice and lubricated as well. Once we get all that done, we're going to put the rotor on because it's got the back bearing in there already. Going to make sure everything's nice and clean. We got all the grease off our hands before we reach down and grab that rotor and put it on. Now the important step of this is to make sure that that seal gets set properly on that ridge. And don't be afraid to go back and take a look and make sure. It looks good from here, but I'm always going to stick my head back in there and double check. Yep, that looks good. Make sure that that bearing is seated and nice and tight. Good. So now we're going to put a little lubricant on that race. The inner race and the inner bearing take most of the weight, and you should lubricate these once every couple of months just to make sure that that back bearing stays lubricated. Get that bearing in there, seated nice and tight. That's good. Then we're going to put the washer in. And then the nut. Now we're going to use a wrench to make sure that this is all seated nice and tight. I'm going to spin it. Okay, so we're going to get the tire back on here. Just kind of reach back in there and line up the studs. Okay. Alright, we get these back on, and we're going to put two on first, just to get the tire centered. And then we'll use an impact to tighten them up. Alright, be careful when you're using an impact. Not too tight. We're going to torque these down here in a minute anyway. They're all on, yep. Now we're just going to lower the tire down just to put a little tension on it, and then we'll torque them down to 120 foot-pounds. Now again, you need to do your own homework. And find out exactly what your specs are to torque yours down. Some can be as high as 150. Dexter has these at 120. And we'll just double check and make sure. Yep, we're set at 120. There it goes. And I'm going to go get an extension, a small one, just so that I can get this a little bit easier. Be right back. Alright, just a little shorty, not much. You don't want to add any flex to this. It'll reduce the torque value, or increase the torque value. Okay, so now that we got that on, we're actually going to take the pressure off the wheel so that if they did flex a little bit while it was tightening up, it'll release it, and then we'll be good to go. And that's it, and that's how you lubricate the bearings. And we fixed the problem with the stud. And so now we're ready to hit the road. Pretty excited about that. Okay, so again, please be careful when you're doing this. Follow all safety precautions. Make sure that you are supporting the trailer in every way possible before you do this, so it does not tip over while you're working on this or fall down on you. Don't get underneath anything unless it's properly jacked up and supported. Make sure, again, you're following all safety precautions. Check with the local dealer to make sure you're doing this properly, have all the right parts. eTrailer is a great resource. So, hey, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that bell. Sure, I'd like to have you along on our RV Weekenders community. So take care. We'll see you on the road now.